called disciples, making disciples, and that is what our purpose is for this year. So that's the theme verse is Acts 1:8, and you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. That is disciples making disciples. So I said in these past weeks, this is what the expansion of the word disciple that I have said to you guys. It's D is being decisive in following God. I is seeking intimacy with the Father. S is separated to serve others. C is committed to church and community. I is living a life of integrity. P is purposeful in giving. L is intentional in love. E is living with eternity in mind. So with that, lesson 1, we learned who is a disciple from Matthew. From Matthew, chapter 10, verse 32 to 39. We learned who is a disciple. That is one who confesses Christ before others, one who loves Christ more than all others, one who is living or willing to lose everything for Christ. And then last week we learned about the demands of a disciple from Luke 9:57 through 62. And in that we learned that in the demands is a true disciple requires surrender. A surrendered heart will also have priority in their life. And also a true disciple requires commitment. So not only that we need surrender, not only that we need priority, but we also need commitment. So we come to the third lesson today, that is character of a disciple. And we will turn our attention this morning to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 13 to 16. മത്തായിയുടെ സുവിശേഷം 5-ാം അധ്യായം 13 തൊട്ട് 16 വരെയുള്ള വാക്യങ്ങൾ. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 13 to 16. And I read it like this, and it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Verse 14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl or a bushel. Instead, they put it on its stand and gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So, not only that we understand who is a disciple, not only that we know what is the demand of a disciple, but we need to have a character that is formed. And so, because that character is the reflection of who we are. ആ സ്വഭാവം നമ്മളിൽ വന്നെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ ശിഷ്യത്വം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കർത്താവിന്റെ ശിഷ്യൻ എന്ന് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ നോക്കൂ. So we need to form that character in us. So what is the character of a disciple? The first characteristics in verse 13, it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." So the first characteristics of being a disciple is to function as salt of the earth. To function as salt of the earth. ഉപ്പായി നമ്മൾ ഈ ലോകത്തിന്റെ ഉപ്പായി മാറണം. As salt makes a difference in people's food, so light makes a difference in their surroundings. Now, so if salt is to be effective, it needs to have flavor and savor. So sometimes we can have flavor, but no savor. Flavor means basically it has to have some taste. That is the savory part. But the seasoning part is the flavor. Now it's the same like butter versus margarine. You know, it all seems like butter and margarine is the same, but there is a difference. See, butter is made out of a natural product. It's basically, you make it out of the yogurt that we churn it or we churn it and make butter out of it. But margarine is made out of artificial processed ingredients. Butter has been there for thousands of years, but margarine is only there for 200 plus years, right? The butter provides good cholesterol. The margarine provides thin fats. It's the same. So what I'm trying to say is the flavor can be manipulated, right? But the savor cannot. If so we need to be having not only the flavor, but also the savor of it. So what is the savor of a salt is? It is tasty, it is seasoning, it is preservative, it is preventative, it is also effective as a powerful, productive, necessary element. So when salt is used properly, it not only adds seasoning, but it is also preservative. Preservative, we can save some food materials by adding salt to it, and it will stay like that for some time. So we need to have that preservative. It is also preventative, means there are times when salt can be used as a precursor not to have certain problems with the food when we eat, if we are using salt properly. And not only that, it has become so powerful. When we eat rice and everything, and we put the curry in, and or we are putting the chicken or eating the chicken and the beef in, and at that time, if it is not salty, we would want to add more salt to it, because of the fact that it is powerful, it is productive, it is a necessary element. Now, how does that add up to a Christian's life, right? So the salt of the earth makes basically we as Christians to be mature Christians, which makes us to be influencers. So when I say to young people, I always say, your education is not just so that you can get some knowledge, but also that we become influencers. Every single one of us, no matter what profession we are, no matter what education we have got, but that status that we got because of our education is to become influencers. So let's compare it with the salt, being the salt of the earth. So what is that? We are called to be seasoning situations. What does that mean? There are times when there are things that is not done right. We need to be ready to make ourselves to be people that seasons it, that provides a good flavor, good savor unto people. It has to be carefully lived. That is, our life should be carefully lived, that we would become seasoning in situations where it goes wrong. And then what is the preservative factor? The preserving of fundamentals of the gospel depends on us. It can only happen when we become the salt of the earth. Because in today's day and age, ഇന്നത്തെ കാലത്ത് സുവിശേഷം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, അത് മായം ചേർത്തതായി മാറും പലപ്പോഴും. So we need to be careful that we would not add these infirmities, that is, those things that is not of the gospel, to be put in the gospel to add taste, but we would preserve the fundamentals of the gospel. സുവിശേഷത്തിന്റെ ആ മാധുര്യത്തെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ഫണ്ടമെന്റൽസിനെ നമുക്ക് ആദ്യം തൊട്ട് അത് പ്രിസർവ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമുക്ക് സാധിക്കണം. Not only that, we need to be able to prevent, and that preventing is sin in our lives and also in the life of others. See, we can only exhort people to live out of sin, but we can show by our life how we can prevent sin by avoiding those situations, avoiding those circumstances. And then I said, in regards to the savory taste of the salt of the earth, it has to be powerful, productive, necessary element. So we need to be made effective. We need to be made effective by setting our hearts on letting others see Jesus in and through us. Because when we become productive, powerful, And that time we are reflecting Christ in others. So we need to become mature Christians and influencers. What a great privilege that we have, that we can become those people that becomes the salt of the earth. We season situations. We preserve the fundamentals of the gospel. We prevent sin from happening in our lives and in other people's lives. And we also are made effective by setting our hearts and their hearts on letting others see Jesus in and through us. Next, the second characteristics that God wants us to have is to be the light of the world. When Jesus spoke, right, in John's chapter 8, John's Gospel chapter 8, verse 12, it says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. In this verse, he says he's the light of the world. But in Matthew, Jesus says, you are the light of the world. Not only that Jesus is the light, that without him, we are dark, but with him, in John, it says, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. But here in Matthew, it says, you are the light of the world. You know, God is light, Christ is light, and the believer is set to be the light of the world. The believer is what God and Christ is, that is the light. No greater compliment can be said about a believer. No greater compliment that we are the light of the world. To be identified with God is an enormous responsibility. We have to understand that wherever light is, the darkness should flee. And so whatever light is and does, the believer is to be and to do it. So what does that mean? It should become our nature. So number one thing in regards to being the light is it should become our nature. Verse 14, the first part of verse 14, it says, Jesus told his disciples, you are the light of the world. That is the natural thing should be in our life. Now, light is a universal symbol in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Basically, it symbolizes, number one, purity as opposed to filth, right? And then it also reflects truth or knowledge as opposed to error or ignorance. And not only that, it also reflects that the divine revelation and presence of God as opposed to being rejected by God. So just as I said, right, the reflection of Christ is the light in us. So what does it do? It, number one, it chases away the darkness. What does that mean? You know, when you say in the night, when we turn on the lights, right, it is total darkness, and we turn on the light, what happens? First of all, it blinds us temporarily. It blinds us. And then you get used to the light, and then it eliminates the darkness out of the room. So what does that mean in our life? As soon as Christ comes into us, and as soon as Christ becomes the sole possession of our life, then Christ possesses our life, the light that Christ is reflects through us. And then immediately we who could not see people in good light or the circumstances in good light, we are able to drive that darkness away, and we could see like never before. We can now see all the things that is the obstacles in our life, and then we are able to move away from those things. So you can find what you're looking for when our nature becomes the light and Christ becomes the light. Not only that it chases away darkness, but it also reveals, right? It opens up the truth of an area of a whole new world, and it clears up the way to the truth and the light. See, in our personal life, sometimes when Christ doesn't become our focus, Many things that is suppressed by us, it is not revealed to us. When Christ becomes our life and we are following in that light, Christ reveals things in our life that is not of the truth. സത്യമില്ലാത്ത പല കാര്യങ്ങളും നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ കാണും. കർത്താവിന്റെ വെളിച്ചം വന്നാൽ മാത്രമേ ആ തടസ്സങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ ഒക്കൂ. See, as a disciple of Christ, as we said, that when Christ becomes the priority, yes, last week we said the demands of a disciple, when Christ becomes our priority, we would be totally surrendered to his cause. We would be totally committed to his cause. So when that happens, we understand that it is only because of the light in us that it is revealed. So not only that it chases away darkness when our nature becomes light, and not only that it reveals, but it also guides us. What does it guide? It directs the way to go, leads along the right path. See, many times when we are in darkness, we do not know what we are, which direction we are going, which direction we are following, as to what we want to do in our life. But when the light of God reveals in our life, in our hearts, God directs our path. And I said earlier this morning in regards to things that have happened in our life, and my wife and my kids were here. There are things that has happened in our life in these past few months. When we understand that Christ is leading us, and when we surrender totally for his cause, even those things that seems impossible, God is revealing that this is the path that you have to travel in. In a lot of ways, God is acknowledging his presence. And so in same way, he guides us. I was sharing this with day before yesterday with a family about how Christ led us. There was times in these past few months where we had to make a choice as to which church that we should go to, or which path that we should follow. My children, which path they should follow. And there were circumstances that were obvious when we surrendered totally and said, Lord, you have to guide us. You have to show us the way as to which way it would be. And it was made absolutely clear. And I hope and pray that every one of us have gone through such a situations. And every one of us as a church has gone through such situations, especially in regards to we are in a transition year. And God has led us thus far only when we surrender unto him. So being the light, believers, we are now the light of the world. And Jesus said in John 9, as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. But we are of Christ. And because we are of Christ, we are not only that we are walking in his light, but we become the light to the other people, those that are in the darkness. Unless we reflect Jesus to the world, it will always stumble around in darkness. We need to understand that Jesus should be reflected in our lives through the light that we show unto others. Otherwise, they will stumble into darkness. So I said, it will become our nature to be light. It chases away darkness, it reveals, it guides. Now, not only it becomes our nature, but now what would our job be? It would be to shine. Look at verse 14, the second part of verse 14 and verse 15. It says, a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl or a bushel. Instead, they put it on its stand and it gives light to everyone in the house. What is to be shine means? It becomes that it is a city on a hill. A city on a hill, Jesus, a town, a city built on a hill cannot be hidden. Why is a city on a hill that is studied? In those days, the cities were built of white limestone, gleamed in the sun and could not easily be hidden. Same way, because it was always, the cities were always on a hill. Here, I love to drive here in Atlanta, especially in these suburbs. Coming from where we are living, going to the North Park Mall, I believe, right? That mall, you should see the windy roads. But many houses that are on an elevation, You can see from far off that it cannot be hidden. But there are some house that is in the valley that when we are driving up on the mount, sometimes we are not able to see. But when we see that houses on the hill, it is so beautiful to look at. It's the same way when we are the light of the world, when we are situated on top, that everybody can see us, it should see the light of Christ. If you are truly a disciple of Jesus, everyone will know that who you are. Everyone will know who you are. They will look at you and see Jesus. They will see it in your eyes, your smile, and your life. And this is the reason why, when I'm visiting these houses, that the houses of our dear members, and sometimes you go into a house and it's so pleasant to see that smile. To interact with those kids with the innocence, and to see how joyous they are because they are children of God. Sometimes we walk around as if gloomy, everything is wrong and the world around us is miserable. And so we are just gloomy faced people. But what would people look at us and think? Why do they want to come to the knowledge of this Christ if we are always gloomy? So my request to all of you is that we would put on that smile. Our life would reflect Christ, his light, and so that others may see us. It would be unmistakable, like the city on a hill. You won't be able to hide it. Sometimes, some people say about me, I'm a loudmouth. My sound goes before me. Before even I enter the room, people can hear me. But sometimes we try to hide. Sometimes I'm not asking everybody to be loudmouth like me, but I'm just saying that when we go into a room, do people recognize us? It cannot be hidden, that we do not want to be hidden because we want to reflect Christ, right? Jesus said, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bushel. Instead, they put it on a stand and gives light to everyone in the house. In our homes, let others draw near to you because they are looking at Christ-like wisdom. When we are people of light, when we are people who are the city on a hill, our job is to shine. Being Christ's disciples means spreading the light to everyone with whom we have in contact. For the last few weeks, I've been telling you, I've given you a challenge from the beginning of the year to the end of the year to pray for one person. And we are praying for that one person, but they are not seeing the light in you. Then why would they be drawn to you and to that love that you show and that smile that people show, that you would be able to reflect Christ? So make sure that your smile, your presence always show that positiveness of the pleasantness of Christ. And not only our job is to be a city on a hill, but it should shine. There was an old song, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, right? The kids would sing in those CD-ROMs, CDs and all those things, the DVDs. It's a famous song. And it says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Won't hide it under a bushel or no, I'm going to let it shine. And then it says, won't let Satan poof it out. No, I'm going to let it shine. And then it says, let it shine till Jesus comes. I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. What a beautiful song that is, right? Jesus has given us a job in this world, and that is to shine. We are not to let our lights go out. We are not to hide our light so that others cannot sin. See, up on a hill, unmistakable. Up on a stand where it gives light to all. I have to go and give light, that thinking that I'm the only one thing that is burning on a silent light. So all around us may be darkness. All around us might be things that is going wrong. Sometimes even though everything is going right, people are gloomy and trying to find out something wrong. But I have also shared with people inside our church, inside our church here, and I said this: forget about what is negative around. Let's think about the positives that God can do through our lives and through the lives of our believers, of our members, of the Christians around. that we would be letting it shine for others to see. So the characteristics of a disciple is not only to be salt, but to be light. And in that light, our nature becomes to be the light. And our job becomes to shine. But there is a third thing about light, is our purpose is to glorify or give glory to the Father. Verse 16, it says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your God or your Father in heaven. What his disciples must show is their good works. All righteousness, everything they are and do that reflects the mind and the will of God. You know, we have a tendency to downplay good works because so many people think that they can earn their way to heaven by good works. But while our good works won't take us to heaven, but the reward is based on the good works that we get. It will not take us to heaven because of our good works, because our salvation is free. Our salvation is free. If anyone has not known Christ, understand that it is freely given by God to accept him and to have access to eternal kingdom. But we need to understand that our good works will earn us the rewards. You know, some people in Malayalam, it says, not enjoying heaven is not what God is asking us. God is asking us that, you know, and somebody also says that, you know, somewhere a hut in heaven is okay. No, I want to live in the greatest mansion that is out there. Because by my good works, by my things that I do for the cause of the kingdom, not that I have gained access to heaven because of that, but I have gained the rewards because of that. So our way is not just to squeeze into heaven. Our way is not to just live in a small hut in heaven. Let's enjoy the full presence of God in that mansions that Jesus has gone to prepare before us, that we will be able to do that. Good works don't produce faith, but faith must produce good works. In James chapter 2, verse 14 to 18 says, what good it is, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds. Can such faith save them? Verse 15 says, suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You know, the good word without the good work is of no avail. Expositor's Bible commentary says like this, right? The good word without the good walk is of no avail. Remember, the good word is good, but if it is not coming into action by our works, it is of no use. So this is what my thing is. You know, in North India, these beggars used to come, or the people who come in asking for help because they have nothing to live on. Even on the street corners now, we see these panhandlers. So they would come, and one of the things that, you know, many of us have done this, we say, aage bado. Basically, it says is move on. But if they are genuinely seeking for help, do we really, even when we have everything that we have, that we need, not only need, but we want, and still we say to these people, aage bado, is that the right thing to do? When we see somebody in need, we need to be there. When we see somebody, not only are believers, even if they are unbelievers, we know them, and we know that they are genuinely in need. I'm not saying give it to everyone who asks, because sometimes it is being lazy also. Don't cater to them. See, I was coming back from on a night train from Atlanta Airport all the way to North Springs. As soon as I got in, and I saw this guy sitting out there, immediately he stretches his hands and said, give me $1. And I know that this guy is already on drugs and he wants it more for that. That is not what I'm asking her. But if somebody is genuinely in need, are you able to bless them? Are you able to help them? Our works is not to bring praise to us. but to our Heavenly Father. This is the reason why Jesus says that whatever you do unto others, do it in secret, so that the Father in heaven would bless us. See, some people do these good works so that others may know. Please don't do that. Not for your name in a booklet, not for your name in a newspaper, not for others to see. You know, you have billions of dollars and you give $100 to somebody and you try to publish in a newspaper or a booklet to make people to recognize you. But to be a light to the world is, Jesus gave that light for free. Is the same thing that we have to do. Be the light unto the others. So that when we glorify through good deeds, God is going to be honored. Not only glorify God through good deeds, but glorify God through purposeful living in Him. Let them see Jesus. Purposefully, you have to live to show others this light. Purposefully. You need to be purposeful in life in everything that we do. You know, even if you do these little things, be purposeful. Be genuine. Be transparent to the point that they will see Christ in us. Sometimes we have so humility that we don't want others to see anything that we want to share. But that is not what it said. It says, be purposeful. Let others see Christ in you. Christians should never be having this problem. Our purpose is to glorify to the Father by letting our light shine. Our purpose is to so reflect the light of Christ that no one can say on the day of judgment that they didn't know that we had to do this. That is why James makes it clear. Faith without works is dead. Let your light shine brightly, that the world may see your good works and give praise to the Father. So 3 things that I talked about light. First of all, our nature should be to be light. Not only that, that chases away darkness, that reveals, that guides, but our job is to shine, that we would be a city on a hill. And not only that, we will continuously let it shine. And our purpose should be to give glory to the Father. Glorify God through our good deeds, glorify God through purposeful living in Him. Now, these are the questions I want you to ponder. Number 1, are you being the salt of the earth? Are you reflecting the light of Christ? When people look at you, what do they see? Are you visible to others, or is Christ visible when people look at you? We need to be careful how we live our life. So we need to be understanding that that is what Christ is looking at us. That are you being the salt? Are you reflecting the Christ in us, others? When people look at you, what do they see? Are you visible to others, or is Christ visible in you? I told about being salt of the earth. We need to be mature Christians. We need to be seasoning situations. We should be preserving fundamentals of the gospel. We have to prevent sin from getting a strong foothold in our lives and in other people's lives, and be made effective by setting their minds on the things of God and by setting their hearts on letting others see Jesus in and through them. So to be the light of the world, our nature should become light. Our job is to shine, and our purpose is to glorify the Father. We need to understand that Christ is the light of this world. Christ was the salt to the earth, and we need to be the salt and the light of the world. Now, I'll end it with this story of a person. This artist never thought of himself as famous or talented, even though he was one of the greatest songwriters of his time and singer of his time, and never cared about being rich. What he cared about was serving God and serving others. A message of joy that resonates throughout the contemporary Christian music he wrote and recorded. He was from Wichita, Kansas, and a graduate of Friends University. And this artist, at the age of 41, was killed in a car accident on September 1997. He was driving back. He and a friend, Marshall McWicker, was driving back from Chicago to Wichita for a performance on a Saturday. And it was on a Friday night. And this was a benefit for a youth ministries organization of the United Methodist Church. And his manager says, in the industry, he was considered by many to be the greatest writer of our time. He said that if the artist, whose name was Rich Mullins, one of the best songwriters and artists of his time, had his preference, I think he'd prefer not to be remembered. Rich would prefer that the God he believed to be remembered. Rich truly embodies how to be the salt and light of the world. Among some classics that he wrote, the most famous was a song that still continues to be relevant and sung in many churches. And it says, Step by Step. And as we dedicate ourselves to be the light and the salt of the world, can we sing that song? Ronnie or Claire, whoever is assigned to do that, can we sing that song? And in our own home, can we dedicate ourselves and say, the Lord, I will be the salt and the light of the world? Because that is what the character